Hello, everyone, and welcome to another race here in the 2019 Dragon Warrior Randomizer Tournament. Tonight's race is going to feature brisulph versus the thehangrycanuck, and I'm your commentator, Lorgan, joined here by Bobski. Bobski, how are you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Looking forward to seeing how this race shakes out.
Indeed. We have two pretty veteran players who have played a lot of randomizer, so I think we'll hopefully be in a good one for today. And yeah, you never know what the seed is going to bring to us. It's randomizer after all, but I've enjoyed watching the matches I've already seen. We have, 64 competitors in the tournament this summer? It's crazy, right?
It is a giant tournament. Great growth for the community.
All right, but it looks like things are actually starting off, and we're going to see what are in the three chests we have here in the throne room as they get instructions from King Lark to start the quest. It looks like we are starting out with wings and gold, as well as a magic key. So they'll be able to use the wings to get out of the castle and then come back in and spend that key to open up the key room and buy more keys. So keys are already a solved problem. And on the outside, do you see that swamp? Yikes. In any case, there's also the town of Cantlin. thehangrycanuck has decided to head right over there, start checking out the shops. And it sounds like I'm ahead, so...
Just a touch ahead, but we do see that the thehangrycanuck is checking out the shops, seeing if there is any early equipment to buy in the shops. And there is just a ton of swamp to begin this map. That could be problematic for our runners looking to gain early experience, depending if there's even a gold grind or a quick weapon available to them, with their attack power being 5 to start and 10 or 15 if they get the copper sword out of Cantlin. They could do a little bit of damage, but they're not going to have full hit points when they go into battles.
Yeah, and starting with only 13 hit points, I didn't even see, can they get all the way out of the swamp? They could obviously go into the Tanagil basement, which I don't think we've seen yet, but it looks like brisulph is headed that way to check it out. So if there's a dungeon down there, that could be at least a place that they could go without getting their feet wet. But this could be a really interesting and tough start. They have some options available to them. I think we saw the silver harp as a key item that was in the Tanagil treasury already, and the stones of sunlight.
Yep, we have those two marked off by our tracker, the sea wolf, and it looks like just the staff cave and the token are the outstanding quest items right now. That's a start.
Every seed is different, and this one is no exception. But yeah, with the equipment that they can get, and then I guess with 13 hit points, it looks like they can at least get out to the plains with a couple of hit points left, I think. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the first kills are and to see exactly where the zone boundaries are to see if there are going to be killable enemies. But it looks like the thehangrycanuck has already taken to death after spending some money. And Firon's asking a question in the chat. It was wings and gold to start us off, Firon. And so that is how the players already have access to all these things.
We will get a chance to see who is first to get on the experience board here. It looks like brisulph venturing left instead of right. Interesting. Taking the death warp. They can stop in Cantlin and use the Ritz Cantlin there to refresh their HP before they go through the swamp 2 steps to the right to the mountains. I'll be interested to see how long it takes for one of them to go and start grinding, just to see what is available to them in this first zone.
But I actually like the play. It's kind of a minor thing, but brisulph stepping to the left to do his death warp, he at least got to check out 2 more tiles further to the left than he had seen before. And so long as you're going to be taking a death, you might as well add that exploration that you're probably not going to go back to the left for a long while anyway, since there's just a whole bunch of swamp there. So kind of a minor thing, but I like that.
That's true. He does get a slight exploration edge.
And meanwhile, it looks like Swamp South is what is underneath Tanagel Castle. And so there could be monsters in there. Hangry dipped right out. And so I don't know that we'll get a chance to actually see a monster on the screen, possibly until like 5 minutes into this race. This is crazy.
Yeah, sometimes there's a lot to do right off the beginning of the game, but it looks like the first enemy we're going to see is a Drakima, and it's going to wipe out the Hangrycanuck just under 5 minutes.
But yeah, people asking in the chat a bit more about Dragon Warrior Randomizer and the randomizer. The map is randomized. Enemy capabilities, such as the spells that they know and the attacks that they can have, are randomized. The contents of the various item shops, we've seen the town of Cantlin here, which has a few item shops, are randomized as well as the players' kind of level ups, how much strength they're going to gain at any particular level and what order the spells they're going to learn. So there's a whole lot at play. Each seed presents kind of a unique puzzle to solve for our runners.
Yes, each seed does present an interesting take on the quest for the Ball of Light that the Dragon Lord stole. King Lorik tasks us with our quest, sends us on our way, and our runners are after the harp, the Stones of Sunlight, Erdrick's token. They'll trade that harp to an old man for the Staff of Rain, and eventually trade all of them for the Rainbow Drop. We'll get there later.
All right, well, brisulph just managed to get level 2, and it turns out to be huge. Not only does he get like 18 attack power, but he also learns the spell of Hurt More. You get to see that awesome fire transition with the level up on brisulph's side as he got level 2 that signifies that he's got the Hurt More spell. Hurt More is capable of taking out most of the enemies that you're going to see in the overworld. He only has enough magic points right now to cast it once, so he's going to try to find a particularly juicy enemy and go earn himself some experience to get some more level ups.
And he opted to do a physical attack on a Magidrake to get level 3, and then he used Hurt More on the Warlock for level 4 there. So levels coming quick right now for brisulph.
Hurt More is definitely nice compensation for having to start in the swamp and kind of the unusual circumstance that they were in where they're going to be left with just a couple of hit points. And so provided that Hangrycanuck can also manage to get lucky enough to discover a Drakey on one of these early tiles or another easy enemy that he can kill, he should be able to pull things off pretty quickly.
Down goes the ghost, and here's a Drakey.
So he'll get the good news for level 2 as well. We get to see that awesome fire transition once again. And yeah, at this point, it's an unusual situation. Usually you want to have a few levels under your belt before you go out exploring, but with Hurt More, it kind of turns the tables. Provided that you get first action against a variety of enemies, you can often just take them out with Hurt More. And so that encourages you to explore farther than you normally would.
There is a lot of swamp in this seed so far. It almost looks like they're swamp locked. Not having a heal spell, they do have some herbs from that early shop in Cantlin, but they're going to have to spend them pretty consistently. And here's a non-hurt moreable enemy for brisulph.
And as I was already pointed out in the chat, also we see the Big C, Charlotte Castle, is over there on the right. Once you do assemble all of those quest items, as Bobski was talking about before, to get the rainbow drop, you'll be able to create the bridge to get into Charlotte Castle, which is where the final dungeon is that'll lead to the Dragon Lord, but that'll be a ways off. And I don't know the sprites well enough. I guess it's a Final Fantasy Red Mage over on the Hangry Canuck's side. Do you recognize which sprite brisulph is using today?
I personally do not, but I'm sure someone will know for us.
There's a variety of new features in the randomizer for this recent version that we're using in the tournament, and one of them is the ability just to pick a random sprite, and there's a huge new number of sprites that have been added in the game. We're seeing some more level ups. brisulph has now gotten to level 6. Their stats are, other than agility, are going up pretty well. Magic points are still a little bit low. They are only going to be able to cast a few hurt mores before they'll have to go back to the inn to rest and get their magic points back.
And brisulph has found the jerk, as we call him. He is the old man or the wizard, depending on who's telling the story, who will trade you all of the quest items for the rainbow drop so that you can enter Charlotte Castle.
And so the fact that it's so close to the start is pretty convenient, because it means you're probably not going to lose track of it at the end of the game when you actually need to revisit that location.
Definitely. A long walk there would be really inconvenient, just for routing. And it does look like that was to the left, I believe, through the swamp.
And brisulph has found a dead end on the southern end where he's at. Even dead ends, even though they're not immediately useful, are effectively, still gaining information about the layout. It's one fewer place that you have to look for towns in the future. And at this phase of the game, the players want to try to seek out some towns and dungeons. The town of Cole or the town of Hawksness has the opportunity to possibly give Erdrick's armor or the token as some items that could be found. And I guess they don't really need Remolder other than the one chest that's there potentially, since they already have access to keys.
Yeah, we will see where along the line they potentially find Erdrick's sword. Rimuldar might not be a place these runners are looking to find, since they started with keys available.
But yeah, what you said earlier is really true. There is a whole lot of swamp, at least near the start of this map. And so with only a handful of herbs to go on, until they get a healing spell, it's really going to limit just how far they can walk around in this map before taking a death and starting over.
One thing to see will be how many levels our runners get before they decide to dip into Cantlin and check for the search coordinates with the old man there, since they do have keys.
Right, you'd have to use a number of herbs to get across the spike damage tiles that are kind of protecting that little wizard old man who knows the coordinates. And so you'd either have to fill up on herbs before that, or if you're just trying to level up, hopefully in one of the next levels, they'll get either the heal or the heal more spell. But in any case, brisulph is buying back his herbs. Maybe he'll check now, or maybe he's still going to wait a bit.
It looks like he's buying some fairy water. Would you like to describe the function of fairy water here in this randomizer?
Sure, fairy water or the repel spell both do effectively the same thing, which is to repel kind of minor enemies. In a Hurtmore seed, you do want to try to focus on high value targets. You don't want to be killing slimes and drakies when you already have the Hurt More spell. And so repel any enemy whose attack power is less than your defense power will be repelled, which means you won't get any random encounters from those enemies on the world map. And it just helps things go faster and helps you focus on the high value targets.
And brisulph did opt to see the search coordinates, and they are a doozy. They actually had to cut off part of the word west to fit all of the digits of the
3
south
digit
and west.
103 south. My goodness. It's interesting because we can see that the castle, it looks like it's 6 squares from the top. And so 103 south, I think basically we're going to be 10 from the bottom is going to be wherever the search location is going to be. There are 3 potential items that could be here on the search location in the overworld. Erdrick's armor, Erdrick's token, which is one of the quest items, or the fairy flute. We don't know which one it's going to be, but one of those items is going to be there. But they're going to have to walk the entire map, or possibly it's going to be on the second continent through the swamp cave in order to get there. But yeah, in some rare circumstances, you might be able to kind of get lucky and count it out despite the big number because of the fact that you know the map is 120 tall.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I would expect that most likely, unless the map turns out to be a lot simpler than the maps have seemed to be with the new version of the randomizer, that we'll see some Gwaelin rescues in this.
So tell us why rescuing Princess Gwaelin out of the swamp cave is useful in this scenario.
So, Princess Gwaelin is very powerful, and apparently she really, really loves us for rescuing her if we manage to get her out of the basement of Tanagal, actually the swamp cave. The swamp cave has a trap tile in it. The Dragon Lord took the princess and hid her away. And the trap tile is one of the Sharlock enemies. It's one of a kind of specific set of enemies that are pretty powerful, but potentially handleable with Hurt More. And when we rescue the princess and return her upstairs to the king, she gives us her love. And we call it the Gwaelin Positioning System, or GPS, because she can tell you where on the map you are.
Where on the map you are relative to Tanagal Castle. And so if we're looking for 103 south and 81 west, we just need Gwaelin to tell us that the castle is 103 to the north and 81 to the east. It's easy in the heat of the moment sometimes to screw those coordinates up and go the wrong way, but given that they're both so large, this one with the GPS should be easy to find, provided you can get to that location on the map.
Yes, this one you can't mix up the directions, but I think every runner has mixed up the directions at least once.
Indeed, I know I've done it more than once.
And go ahead.
Yeah. Has found the town of Cole, which has one of the search spots, and Erdrick armor is there. Wow, that's a huge find. The armor just lying on the ground under a little clump of dirt in Cole, one of the 3 towns that has a search spot. Yeah, the armor is huge because Erdrick's armor has all kinds of properties. Can we even enumerate them all, Bobski?
I'm not sure we can, but with a swamp seed like this, that is a huge find.
Indeed. So yeah, one of the properties of Erdrick's armor is you no longer take damage walking across those black swamp tiles. You also don't take damage from the spike tiles that brisulph had to cross earlier to go talk to the old man in Cantlin. It also heals you every time you take a step on the map. It heals you 1 hit point, so that's pretty great. It's the best armor in the game just in terms of defense value. I think it has a defense value of 28, as opposed to the chainmail armor, for example, that brisulph is wearing right now, which has a defense of, is it 10? I forget.
And the red dragon sending brisulph back out of that cave. I didn't catch if it was the basement. It doesn't look like it was swamp cave, so I believe he found one of the other caves.
Yeah, it makes sense that he's not in swamp cave since he had to reopen the door. So yeah, I didn't get a good look at what cave he was just in there either. Additionally, with Erdrick's armor, it also makes Hurt More and Hurt spells cast by the enemy do less damage, as well as fire breath from enemies deal less damage. And enemies can no longer cast stop spell against you either while you're wearing Erdrick's armor. So the Hangry Canuck finding Cole, getting the armor, that's a big deal.
The Hangry Canuck has Erdrick's armor, but that can't help you with the NPCs who did spend a little bit of time blocking him from the item shop in the kind of south part of town.
Yeah, Cole was one of the worst item shops from that point of view. It's a long walk just to get there, and there's narrow hallways that the NPCs really like to clog. That said, a lot of the time Erdrick's armor is kind of a huge pivot in terms of how you're able to progress in the seed. However, given that they have a fair number of hit points and that Hurt More spell, brisulph is still going to be able to stay alive and defend himself from a number of monsters, although he's run into another one that's Hurt More resistant, the Demon Knight, and that one is also sending him back home.
Yeah, he's running into a little bit of a roadblock. That one was in the swamp cave, so not as much of a walk for him, and he doesn't have to spend that key to reopen the door since it's technically still in the castle.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that don't reset until you actually go out to the overworld map. One of them is the doors that have been unlocked, and another is the chests, and so perhaps later on we might see people taking advantage of chest glitch, but we'll get to that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Speaking of bridges, I don't know that we've seen that many bridges so far in this map, have we?
There's been lots of swamp, only a couple bridges, and none of the Sparkover variety.
I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
And the Hangry Canuck is now getting the news about where to search on the map for potentially Erdrick's token or the fairy.
And perhaps as to be expected, the experience so far is very close. Players within 100 experience of one another. Obviously, they're both playing the same seed, and so they've got the same capabilities. And yeah, in a Hurt More seed, I wouldn't be too worried if one player was even, like 1,000 experience ahead of the other. It's easy to catch up in a seed where you have Hurt More. If you can find some good enemies to kill, the experience can really flow quickly.
Yeah, the real tipping point's going to be exploration. I think if brisulph manages to find Cole here pretty quickly in comparison, the relative drain on his resources that just walking through the swamp will, kind of release him to explore more easily. The advantage is slightly to the Hangry Canuck on that front right now.
Yeah.
Even though he's seen just different parts of the map.
And it's also, it occurs to me, it's not just the time spent, back at the inn and not being able to walk very far before you just run out of hit points and die, but also the time you spent shopping for herbs. I'm just kind of like counting in my head as brisulph goes and buys another 6 herbs, which is the most you can hold in your inventory, and just talking to the merchant and buying the herbs individually takes like another 30 seconds or something. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know we don't keep track of that stat, but he might have the most herbs used in a seed so far.
And he was using the fairy water as well, which is definitely a good thing, as we talked about earlier in Hurt More Seed. Okay, but he's heading back down to this cave that we weren't sure what it is, so maybe we'll get a better...
And Jacquemus Wedge was indicating to us it looked like grave, based on the movement, but we'll get a second chance to verify. Unless
Assuming.
This wizard...
Yeah. Wizard... Demon Knight, Red Dragon, he's managing to find all the enemies that are Hurt More resistant. And so basically his only chance is to run, and unfortunately the agility at 39 is just a little too low to be a favorite to run from all of these monsters. Well, the Red Dragon you're unlikely to run from for a while, but...
Yeah, so far, stat growth is pretty good for level 8. Agility could definitely use a couple good double-digit levels for these runners to start feeling comfortable running from everything on the map. But so far, 8 levels in, we're not too...
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing more magic points as well, but given that they don't have a healing spell, they still got like 6 hurt mores at 30 magic points since it cost 5 a pop, and that'll get you reasonably far at this stage of the game. So once the healing spell finally does come up, you really hope you're going to get some more magic points to go with it, because you'll be using it a lot. And we see an armored knight over on the Hangry Canuck side. This is an enemy that's a Charlock tier enemy, one of the hardest enemies in the game, but is very susceptible to hurt more. And so if the hurt mores land, then this is a huge chance to get, I think, 172 experience. And I believe that'll put him up to level 9. And we'll see what the next batch of level up is going to give. "17 hit points isn't bad, but no new spells. There's still no healing spell. But once again, since he has Erdrick's armor, he'll be naturally healing every time he takes a step on the map, and so right now that's a huge advantage."
Yeah, that's a huge compensating factor when you don't have the heal spells, to be able to heal on every step. Especially as he wanders through some zones that may not be quite so dangerous.
And both players, last Armored Knight they faced, the Armored Knight actually managed to dodge one of the hurt mores. That's a rare outcome, but they both managed to succeed in defeating it. So brisulph is also going to be bumped up to level 9. So he's at least keeping pace for the most part with experience, but unless he can get back to an inn, he is basically going to run out of hit points and herbs pretty soon. Oh, and look, he finally found the town of Cole. So another equalizer. He's going to pick up Erdrick's armor right here. And yeah, the race will continue to be tight. I expected no less.
Yeah, this is a great race. We see the metal slime on the Hangry Canuck screen in the grave. I didn't catch what was in the chests, but 3 chests down. And the Hangry Canuck looks like they're going to dive through to the bottom 2 chests as well. Sometimes runners opt to skip these if they've seen most of the quest items, in the hopes that they don't have to spend the 2 to 3 minutes it takes to get to each one.
Or the 2 to 3 minutes it takes to walk out, since they haven't learned the outside spell as well. Although we might just choose to do a death warp once he gets to the bottom.
Yes, there is a gold chest in the treasury, as I recall, so it is possible that we will see the chest glitch kind of naturally set up out of the exit of the Grave of Garenham.
And while it's the case that brisulph has the hand axe versus the Hangry Canuck having the copper sword, I don't know that we've hardly seen either of them take a swing at an enemy melee. It's basically one of those seeds where you've got Hurtmore, and most of the monsters they're encountering are enemies that you're going to kill with it, and the ones that aren't are enemies that you're not strong enough to kill anyway. So yeah, these weapons are going to go mostly unused until, I don't know, possibly until the players find Erdrick's sword, depending upon where it is.
Yeah, about the only enemy they might start swinging at as soon as they get a heal more, basically, would be potentially a red dragon. You're unlikely to run from it, and the attack power is not terrific, but it's not terrible depending on the moveset of the red dragon. I expect that the red dragons will come out and have some pretty nasty movesets in seeds this tournament.
So if I was watching correctly, the Hangry Canuck, I think, went directly down to the bottommost chest in the grave first, which ended up just having fairy water in it. And now I think he's returning back up to the 4th chest. And I don't usually see people do them in that order.
That is an order deviation that I have not seen very often. That might just be the order that the Hangry Canuck likes to go in. I am not certain.
I'm not sure that he's going to get away from this battle, though, so the chest number 4 in Garen's tomb might continue to be a mystery to us for a little while. Oh, he gets away at the last moment.
And finds the ever-valuable torch.
But now we know. So in terms of quest items, I guess the stones and the harp were both in the Tanagal treasury, was it? And then, since then, we really haven't seen anything noteworthy.
Yeah, I think the Erdrick's armor find and the coordinates location is kind of the main development since then. Obviously, in Hurtmore has really contributed to the progress through this seed so far. The metal slime could give brisulph a little lift here.
Ironically now, it seems like the Hangry Canuck is trying to take a death warp, and he keeps getting low and medium tier enemies, and Erdrick armor keeps healing him even between those enemies. So he's trying to death warp out of here, and he can't manage to get any enemy to kill him.
Yeah, that can be a difficulty once you have Erdrick's armor. There's a Demon Knight, which should be able to help him out. Looking for potentially the Dragon Scale. There's the adjustment. So he's going to waste every turn by already wearing the Dragon Scale and takes the Death Warp here in just a second.
And so, as I was starting to say before, there's a glitch where a number of things don't get reset until you return to the overworld screen, which means if you're inside a dungeon and you take a death, you respawn back inside Tanagal Castle, which is also not the overworld screen. And it turns out that due to limitations in the game's programming, the game only tracks 8 chests maximum that you've opened. It resets that list of 8 chests that are opened each time you return to the overworld. And since he opened 5 chests in Garen's tomb, and at the very start of the game, there were 3 chests here in the King's throne room, that's 8. And so the game can't track any other open chests. So any chest that he opens now will stay there and can have their items repeatedly taken out of them over and over again.
Yeah, so we see Hangry Canuck taking advantage of that chest glitch right here. You can also take advantage of it with any other contents that go in your inventory. So you could fill your inventory with fairy water if you wanted, or refill your herbs or your keys. So it's a pretty useful glitch in terms of this randomizer and racing.
And since he's already got the Erdrick's armor, I don't remember if we saw a silver shield in any of his shops. I do think maybe we saw a flame sword in Cantlin. I don't remember exactly what was in all the Cantlin shops in terms of high-value items for money that he wants to try to go spend out nearby. In the meantime, over on brisulph's side, it looks like he is also diving these same chests down in the grave.
And brisulph has also progressed to level 10, which had, I want to say 3, 2, 9, and 15 was what I...
And yeah, the tracker is now showing with 99 hit points. It's already moved into the orange. Eventually, as we get a bit further through the levels, we'll see the colors on the tracker tracking the various stats go from white, which is kind of a normal value, to orange, and then finally to green, as you get close to being in the range that you might be able to take on the Dragon Lord, and then finally end up going green for probably good enough stats to take on the Dragon Lord. But the runners still have a bit of what I like to call homework to do in the seed. They still need to find the Staff of Rain Cave to trade in the harp. They need to dig up Erdrick's token somewhere, and I guess bring all of those contents back over to the Jerk in order to get the rainbow drop. So the silver shield was available, but it doesn't look like there was a better weapon available in the Cantlin shops, I suppose. So I presume the Hangry Canuck then is going to go back to Cole. I don't remember if he even looked at the shops that were in Cole when he was there. I don't think brisulph did.
I don't believe either of them checked the weapon shop, but that might not be a main concern, just depending on whether the Hangry Canuck is looking for the flame sword or not. It looks like they grabbed the gold to be able to carry it around, but they won't be putting it to too much use for at least a little while.
And yeah, again, since it is a seed where they have hurt more, at some point, in all probability, the runners are going to come across Erdrick's sword in some treasure chest. But that treasure chest might be in Charlotte Castle at the end and not be available before then. So it might be the case that they can just kind of gamble, keeping a low weapon, hoping to come across Erdrick's sword pretty early in the game. Or it might be the case that they're going to have to upgrade their weapon probably once before they'll be ready to dive Charlock and try to come and find Erdrick's sword.
Yeah, and so we'll see brisulph also using the chest glitch just to build up the gold. We'll see how much gold brisulph desires to carry around the map and whether he has any more knowledge on the what's in the shops.
I felt like he was taking a moment at the shops back at the beginning of the seed, so I think he maybe knows exactly what's in Cantlin. I wonder if he's just going to get the 14-8 plus maybe a little bit of pocket change and then end his gold grind. But nope, it looks like he's continuing. Oh, interesting. It looks like he just stopped with broadsword money.
He must have seen the broadsword and just decided that that's kind of the way he's going to go. Not a bad call with the Hurtmore seed. And it looks like level 10 did bring along Healmore. So we will be able to verify that on the Hangry Canuck gaining a level here in just a second. But Healmore really opens this up for all enemies if you have enough strength to hurt. Basically, do enough damage to them before they exhaust your resources.
And yeah, the broadsword, I usually feel like the broadsword is quote-unquote good enough until you get Erdrick's sword. It's often the case that even when I do have a gold grind available, I'll only get broadsword money rather than flamesword money because while the flamesword is, I think, 8 power better than the broadsword, it's usually the case that the broadsword is good enough to get you deep into Charlotte Castle if you're going and trying to dig up Erdrick's sword from there.
And Smashy noting in chat that the Hangry Canuck has now run from a couple enemies who could have, by just defeating them, given him level 10. That's an interesting choice. Sometimes you just get caught in the moment, deciding
he just might not be paying attention. Yeah, to exactly what his experience is, because yeah, he could have easily just one-shot some of those enemies, even with the copper sword, probably. And yeah, and he's also encountering all these enemies because he didn't choose to buy any fairy water. He obviously has the money for it. So yeah, trade-offs.
The metal slime would do more than enough to get him to level 10, so we'll see if the metal slime will stick around. It is a very elusive.
Capricious might be a good word for the metal slime. Sometimes he'll attack, sometimes he'll just run away. He only has 3 hit points, but you're only bet 50-50 to land a shot on him. And sure enough, this guy disappeared. But what has appeared is the town of Remolder. So here's another opportunity to check a shop for a weapon. And sadly, none is available. But Remolder also has a chest hidden behind 2 doors, so the Hangry Canuck is going to spend a couple of his keys. He could always buy more keys in the shop if he needs to. And find some more gold.
Yeah, in most seeds, Remolder is a great place to find. A lot of times it opens the seed up because you have access to keys. In this seed, we started with them, so it's a little bit less critical to the progress of this.
Yeah, I've never actually worked out what the odds are that you start with an extra key or start with wings that allows you to escape with your key or start with the return spell. I don't know, I feel like it's, 1 in 8 or something seeds that turn out that way. What do you think, Bobs?
Yeah, I'd put it somewhere between 1 in 8 and 1 in 10. I feel like it comes up commonly, but it doesn't happen very often, I would say. It's a skill that most runners learn in their first couple races, but after that, it's kind of just whenever you see it, you know what to do. And there, the Hangry Canuck takes out the Warlock for 28 experience and gets level 10, finding 3, 2, 9, 16, and that new spell of Healmore. So the best heal spell and the best hurt spell are now in play for both runners.
So at this point, I suppose it's pretty much all about the exploration. The runners should be able to stay alive. They need to cover the rest of the map to find the locations that they haven't found, as well as, I guess, if you were playing this seed, I presume you'd probably try to wait to save the princess until you've reached Hawksnest, because if Hawksnest has Erdrick's token, you could get by without the fairy flute, and so you could save the time of not having to rescue the princess. But if you don't find Hawksnest, or if it turns out that Hawksnest has the flute and the token is going to be on the map, then someone's going to have to eventually go dig up those coordinates.
Yeah, I think I might see if I could get a few more magic points. I think if I were running this seed right now, I would be thinking I want another level just to get more than 5 heal mores. Since hurt more is our main driver of damage right now, that really puts stress on that 45 magic points that they have, with hurt more taking 5 every time and heal more taking 8.
Yeah, that's a good point. The low magic is kind of the thing that's holding things up. Looks like brisulph is level 11 and it's gone up to 50 magic points, which helps some, but yeah, the magic points are still dragging behind a little bit at this point. Hit points are good though.
And the hangrycanuck has found a broadsword in the town of Garenham. Also in Garenham are some chests, which I don't believe we've seen yet. So we'll get a chance to see if maybe Erdrick's sword is lying around in a chest.
That would be fitting, since he just brought a broadsword to discover another sword, and he just throws away the 1,500 gold on the ground. But there's also going to be another kind of cave, or another old man in the back of Garenham, so we'll get to find another location after this as well.
And it is dark, so it looks like that's going to be Mountain Cave for the hangrycanuck. So there will be 5 more chests, 1 on the top floor and 4 on the bottom. He's just going to skip that top chest and go right to the second. Oh, never mind. Going back. I was going to be very intrigued by that routing in both caves.
The only reason I can imagine is Mountain Cave, the top floor has the same enemies that you see in the Swamp Cave, and so if you were especially scared of the enemies from the Swamp Cave, you might choose to duck into the second floor, which has a different enemy set, and get those 4 chests, and then come back and try your luck at the top chest. But that's kind of really stretching, and I don't remember that the hangrycanuck had actually seen anything that killed him earlier in Swamp Cave, so there wouldn't be a reason for him to have that reasoning kicking in. So yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, so 40 Watt Range is asking, who's in the lead? Would you like to take a swing at who is leading 40 minutes into the...
I mean, the exploration is pretty even. They're both very nearly in the same location. The hangrycanuck is, I don't know, a minute ahead of brisulph in terms of going through Mountain Cave, but brisulph has more experience right now. It really could go either way at this point.
Yeah, it's definitely too close to call at this point in the race. I'm sure that there will be a point where it will look like one person is ahead or another person is ahead, but I think it's going to go back and forth here for a little bit. Right now, the experience lead seems to be the only difference.
And yeah, sometimes you have races where there's completely divergent strategies. One player goes east, another player goes west, and they discover different things. And it takes a while for them to kind of come back and meet in the middle towards the end of the race. This one, the runners, for the most part, a little bit out of different orders, but have been tracking each other very closely. And so it's pretty exciting to see them both going through the same cave right now, where all of a sudden there's a red dragon on one side, and that could be completely different luck than the other person's going to get and could kind of totally change things.
I actually felt like the strategies were fairly similar, but the exploration directions, at least the ones that they focused on initially, were different, and everything is kind of converged here at the mountain.
And so brisulph picks up the fighter's ring from the 4th chest in Mountain Cave. It looks like he's going back up to number 2 and number 3 if he can get past the red dragon. And now the hangrycanuck is also putting on the fighter's ring. The fighter's ring gets an extra 2 attack power. And 2 is not a lot, but as you get towards the end of the game, it can really turn the tide in the Dragon Lord battle at the end.
And it looks like the red dragon seems to cast or use the lesser of the 2 dragon breath attacks in the game fairly consistently, but it does have heal more, which is really unfortunate.
Alright, well the stop spell that brisulph cast landed, so the red dragon won't be able to heal anymore. Apparently it is 75% heal more and 75% weak fire breath, based on what's the little pop-up that's just come up on the tracker that shows off the particular randomized capabilities of this enemy in this particular seed.
Now, this red dragon that brisulph is facing, he will take it down here just by outlasting it after that stop spell, and it will give him level 12. So we'll see what level 12 holds for.
Yeah, and so on the one hand, it's making his experience lead a little bit more substantial, but on the other hand, it's slowing him down, because this has turned into a really long battle. He's going to have to stay at the inn at Garenham once he pops out of this cave in order to get his magic back. Meanwhile, the Hangry Canuck is continuing to explore and has found Free Stuff Cave, Stones of Sunlight Cave.
That was a huge hit point gain there. Did I see that right? Was that 28 hit points? 28 hit points puts the maximum at 127. That's almost Death Necklace eligible, which is one of the other items that I don't believe either of our runners have seen.
Yeah, the Death Necklace in the vanilla game didn't do anything other than curse the player. However, in the randomizer, it's been given a special capability. The Death Necklace gives you 10 extra attack power, but at the cost of 25% of your max hit points. So usually, unless your hit points get up to around 130 or so, it's not something you'd ever consider putting on. But given that their hit points are already 127 and we're only level 12, and they're still going to need probably at least 4 more levels the way the seed is going, it seems very likely that the Death Necklace could be an option for fighting the Dragon Lord if the players can actually locate that item.
And it looks to me as if we've exhausted the chests in the caves. Have we seen Erdrick's cave with the
that's the one I was just about to say.
I think that's the only cave remaining. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember if we saw that one, but I think we saw everything else. We definitely saw all 5 in Mountain. We saw all 5 in the Grave. We saw the 3 in the back of Garenham, the 1 in Remolder, and obviously the ones in Tanagel Castle. So there are 7 chests inside Charlock, and it seems likely that the Erdrick Sword and the Death Necklace are going to both be in there. Staff of Rain Cave, though, is still missing, right?
Correct. The Jerk was seen. The Staff of Rain Cave has not been found, and so our runners are looking for, I believe, Hawksness as well.
And the area that the Angry Canuck is over on the right, it's near the bottom of the screen. It's near the right-hand edge of the screen. Oh, right-hand edge is the wrong one. It's 81 west. So we'd want to be near the bottom left of the map in order to get to the token coordinates. But in any case, it does look like it has another town, and I suppose that has to be Hawksness at this point. And we're going to see who the enemy is guarding the Hawksness spike tile, and whether there's a flute or a token there.
And that red dragon is gonna be... It's gonna be a lot. The broadsword's gonna help out. I think the Hangry Canuck will probably discover the hard way that it does have heal more, and so it's gonna put a little stretch on the magic points, but should be able to handle.
And meanwhile, brisulph manages to find that Staff of Rain cave. He's traded in the Silver Heart for the Staff of Rain. And so now he just needs to find the token, which might be sitting underneath this red dragon. We'll find out in a moment. But even with the broadsword, it's taking a long time to take this red dragon down. Thank goodness they have enough magic and so many hit points, which are extremely valuable in this battle.
Yeah, this battle is going to eat up a little bit of time. brisulph's going to go off in, I think, a different direction. Is actually going to go and check the swamp cave to see that there's a golem guarding the princess.
And given that we don't have the fairy flute, that also makes things interesting, because if the flute turns out to be underneath the red dragon here, then that will be useful for saving the princess in order to get the coordinates in order to find the token. So the flute could still be valuable, even if it turns out to be the prize underneath this red dragon that we are still trying to kill. It got a heal more in there, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the heal more went off, and it has been blocked, so it should just be a couple more turns.
Yeah, there we go. It's trying to cast Heal More, but that spell has been blocked, so that signifies that it's down to less than 25% of its hit points. Another attack or two should do it.
brisulph did make his way through that golem, so it was a few heal mores, but with 127 hit points, as long as the golem isn't going to heal on you, you're doing just.
And it is the token here in Hawksness. So brisulph is rescuing the princess, but the princess is going to help lead him to coordinates, which are just going to have the fairy flute, which isn't a necessary item. Meanwhile, the Hangry Canuck does have one of the necessary items with the token, and so this could give him an advantage. Even though he's behind by a bit in experience, now he has a lead in terms of assembling the rainbow drop.
That's true. And the Hangry Canuck has multiple times given me a heart attack that he was going to attempt to buy armor over top of Erdrick's armor.
He did hover over the magic armor, I think, in 3 different shops. That occurred to me as well, but yeah. I've done that, by the way. Gotten Erdrick's armor and then bought chainmail and discarded the Erdrick's armor. Feel pretty foolish.
And I believe Smashian Chat has an insight into this. I believe the flute and Hawksness are actually on opposite sides of the map. As you mentioned when we were looking towards Hawksness, it looks to be the right edge of the map. Unfortunately, that's going to be east, and brisulph is going to probably head off to the west to try to do this count, and end up kind of on the other end of the 120 20 square wide map.
That said, given that there's a golem on the spike tile in the swamp cave and a red dragon on the spike tile in Hawksness, neither of which is an attractive enemy to grind given the player's low attack power and weapons, while brisulph is doing all this extra walking, going on a fetch quest for something he doesn't need, if he encounters good enemies that he can hurt more, he can keep his experience lead and not necessarily quote-unquote lose time on the seed.
Oh, and interesting. The swamp cave actually comes out right next to the search spot. So that was a quick find of the fairy flute there. And brisulph is going to find the unfortunate news that that's not the token. It's not a required quest item, but can be useful if a golem is often in your...
Yeah, if there's a number of golems in Charlock, their agility is still kind of on the low side, or if a golem turns out to be in the spike tile in Charlock, that could be a reason that the fairy flute could turn out to be a pretty big asset. In the meantime, brisulph is kind of slowly closing off different corners of the world that he's seen all of, so eventually he's going to head to that bottom right corner and find Hawksness as well.
And the Hangry Canuck appears to have turned in his quest items for the rainbow drop, visiting the old man who gives you approval to lay siege to Charlock.
And given that he seems likely to find the remaining items that he needs in Charlock, I think we should expect that he's going to do an early dive into Charlock, not to try to win the game, but to try to get down to the treasure chest down in the 7th basement of the Charlock treasury, to try to find Erdrick's sword and the death necklace.
Yeah, that's still a little bit of a stretch of a play. I think this next level would really give him a hand up in that effort, but I think he's going to go for it. That 50 magic is going to stretch far, but I don't know if it's going to go quite as far as
even if he fails, the enemies that are in here are probably some of the best enemies that he could be grinding experience anyway. So if you wanted to level up, this would also be the play, is to dive into Charlock right now, right?
That is a good play. It is a good grind going down as long as it's not full of red dragons. Red dragons are kind of the one thing you don't want to see. We'll survive them, but they take a lot of time and you have to stop.
Golems would also be bad. The agility, you're probably going to be able to run from them. Without the fairy flute, they might really whittle down your hit points some as well and wouldn't be worth the time to fight. But I see Axe Knights and Werewolves, and those are hurt moreable enemies, and so that's going to be a kind first and second floors with those enemies in this zone.
Yeah, so from here on out, if the Hangry Canuck can snag the Erdrick sword, I would expect them to potentially grind in Charlock just because it's so close. Otherwise, find a grind spot that they like, potentially sit down with that golem and have a little quality time. But we will see what the strategic choice is.
But assuming that brisulph manages to actually locate Hawksnest in a reasonable amount of time, I think we are likely to kind of see a convergence in the routes. Things kind of diverged as the players, one found Hawksnest and the other went to the coordinates. But if brisulph finds Hawksnest, he's going to be ahead in experience, but be catching back up on the exploration. And I think this is still a very tight race.
I would agree. I think the slight experience lead gives a little bit of time here to catch up in the exploration. And of course, these runners don't know anything about what the other runner is doing. So in their mind, they might feel ahead, they might feel behind. That's totally kind of runner dependent.
And the Hangry Canuck, he's making a choice here that is justifiable, but I think on balance probably wrong. He's doing some running from enemies in Charlock, and while he might want to do that to preserve his magic to try to make it all the way down to the bottom basement where he's going to be able to open those treasure chests, I think it's more important to be always gaining experience and killing bad guys and leveling up, even if he has to do a second dive in Charlock a little bit later. But yeah, he didn't manage to get away from that green dragon because the agility is still pretty low. 49 agility only puts him, I don't know, just a little above 50-50 to run from a number of these Charlock enemies.
Yeah, missing a hurt more on a green dragon is annoying. And
I think it's at like 1 in 8.
Have missed. Yeah, I believe they might have missed one there leading to that death, but I could have been mistaken.
Yeah, I think he did miss at least one there. And yeah, they're also a little bit dodgy in terms of melee attacks as well, so it's quite possible that you get an unlucky sequence with the green. But even so, I think he should just try spending all of his magic, try and kill everything, at least until he gets, he's just short of this next level up for level 12, which might improve his chances.
And brisulph has snagged level 13.
And he also has found Free Stuff Cave, and so I think he's approaching the direction where Hawksnest is just a little bit farther to the southeast, so I think he's going to find that town next. And I didn't see if he still has enough resources. 44 magic points. If he remembers that he needs to stop spell the Red Dragon, I think there should be plenty of resources for him to be able to take down the Red Dragon and earn himself that Erdrick's token.
Definitely. I think the resources will go far enough, and with that 133 hit points, brisulph could actually decide to get a level or two right then and there if he wanted.
I think that might be a stretch, just because it's so many rounds of combat versus the Red Dragon. Even with all the hit points and the really good armor that the players have, they're still going to take a lot of damage and end up having to heal more, I think at least once during any Red Dragon fight right now.
That's a good point. And as Beta Strep notes in chat, the agility is pretty terrible, and that contributes to low defense power as well. So we'll be taking more damage than usual if the Red Dragon takes a swipe.
Yeah, a bite from the Red Dragon. Like you said, since they often are going to use the Fire Breath, that's only going to deal, damage perhaps in the teens or something. But if they do take a bite, that could easily do like 42 damage at this point.
So brisulph is on the hunt for Hawksnest, which contains the Erdrick's token under a Red Dragon in the trap tile. And after that,
I think it's just about to come on screen, too.
Yes, indeed. I think it's just off to the east, but I could be mistaken. Slightly turned around on these windy maps.
Oh, no, but he's run into a Red Dragon before then. this is going to sap a bit of his magic points and might not leave him with enough resources to take on the final red dragon if he does make it to Hawk's Nest. This will be really interesting. This could be a real pivot, a game changer over here.
Yeah, that could really throw a wrench in kind of how smoothly the seed has been moving for brisulph, aside from not quite seeing Hawk's Nest when he was nearby.
Yeah, he's still keeping up a lead of, I think, just over 1,000 experience points on Hangry Canuck, but if he gets sent back to the castle before coming back with Erdrick's token and has to walk all the way back here, we could see that experience lead start to evaporate. I also would already be using herbs just outside of battle, probably, to make sure I keep my hit points up if I were on brisulph's side. You can always replenish the herbs later, and it's really critical for him not to lose his location since he's walked, 2/3 the way across the map to get to down here.
Yeah, Hawk's Nest is in a non-convenient location in this seed, so I don't expect that we'll see them revisit it later for a grind. Sharlock seems the natural choice with a backup of that golem in the base.
Yeah, if the players could make it down to the Sharlock Treasury at level 13, and it did have Erdrick's Sword, and they were still behind on other stats, the Red Dragon would be a good grind, except for the fact that it's like a 4-minute walk to get there. And it's a race. Can't afford to spend that kind of time.
brisulph has found himself in the cheapest inn in the game, in Breckenary. Typically, it's a city that the runners don't usually like to see, but when it has the inn that you really need and you're out of magic, it's great. And right here, brisulph has found Hawk's Nest, so he's going to go and find out what that enemy is on the trap tile and get himself the Erdrick's token.
And since he just fought a red dragon a moment ago and remembered the stop spell, I also expect that this battle should be smooth and quick.
And it looks like the Hangry Canuck is going to take out an Axe Knight by physicaling it because they spam stop spell?
That's convenient. I think he would have also been very happy with the Death Warp at that point. Sharlock Castle is so close to home that there's no sense in walking back to an inn. It's much faster just to take a death and have all of your stuff restored as you respawn back in the castle. And Cantlin is just outside of where you start, and so he can replenish his herbs over there as well. Now, since brisulph... On the one hand, he just got all of his magic back, and he's on a tile that's a pretty good grind, but with only 92 attack power and having to stop spell the red dragon. I don't know, would you stay here and try to kill one or two more after getting the token and then Death Warp out? Or would you just go back home and try your luck inside Sharlock? I'm not sure what I would do in this situation.
I think with the agility where it is, I would try to stay here, but I could totally understand the choice of going and trying to make the dive, especially since you've got 144 hit points.
And it looks like he is sticking around to try to kill a couple more reds. So yeah, still maintaining looks like about a 1,500 experience point lead right now. But it does seem like the Hangry Canuck is now committed to trying to dive Sharlock again, and this time I think he's much more likely to be able to make it down to the treasury to try to find Erdrick's Sword.
Yeah, level 13 is really helpful in the effort of doing the sword dive. And there was a question in chat on whether Hangry thinks the sword is in Sharlock, and indeed, as it was responded, Hangry knows it's down there. I believe Hangry Canuck has seen all of the chests at this point, having checked the bottom of the grave and even Free Stuff Cave. So I believe the only cave that we hadn't seen and haven't had our runners go into is pretty unlikely to have it, having only one chest.
That said, given that they want both the Death Necklace and Erdrick's sword, there is a possible wrench in the works, which is, you just saw it on Hangry's screen for a moment there, since he's got the Radiant spell going, but there's another chest. There's 6 chests down in the treasury, and then one other chest that's off on its own in a different location. And so if Erdrick's sword or the Death Necklace is in that other chest, the Vanilla sword location, sometimes referred to as the judge's table, then he may have to make a second dive, or when he's going on his final dive, divert down to that other chest in order to try to get the final item. We'll see where the sword and the Death Necklace wind up.
And the Hangry Canuck is discovering that there are golems in Charlock, so that is one way in which brisulph's use of the count early may pay off.
Yeah. And with 53 agility, normally golems, they're a low agility enemy. I think they're only a group 2 enemy, but they have 40 agility or 60 agility or something. Normally they're pretty easy to run from, but with 53 agility, it's no longer a certain thing, and they hit hard. And so this could whittle him down in heals, or possibly even kill him if he's not careful.
So at this point, I think it's time to start the guessing game on which chest in the treasury, or I guess the vanilla chest, has Erdrick's sword.
Feel free to post your guesses in the chat, and with any luck from the Hangry Canuck, we'll find out what the answer is in just a couple of minutes. And now it's interesting. brisulph is doing a really good job getting experience here on the Red Dragon. He's actually lasted through more Red Dragons than I thought he was going to be able to, and has increased his experience lead to about 2,000. He's going to get the sword later than Hangry, but there have been a lot of hurt-moreable enemies in Charlock, so the fact that Hangry has the sword sooner, assuming that he gets down to the sword during this dive, isn't going to matter that much, because it's not going to be a huge advantage for him to have the sword. It's only going to be a necessity to kill the Dragon Lord at the end, it appears. And so, yeah, I think at this point it's looking like brisulph might actually have the lead. What do you think?
I think it depends on the Charlock RNG, to be quite honest. There could be... I don't know that we ever saw Tablet Cave, and if for some reason the Erdrick sword or the Death Necklace ended up in Tablet Cave, then we would have an interesting search on our hands.
Yeah, that would completely throw a wrench in the work for both players, I expect, unless all of a sudden one of these level ups gives a huge strength boost so that they could somehow get by without one of the key items.
But I think brisulph's experience lead has just, if anything, kind of grown throughout this time, even when he was looking for Hawksness. And that really, really is going to play a deciding factor coming down to the end and fighting the Dragon Lord. When you have 144 hit points, it just gives him such durability on this dive.
We have 5 chests and still no sword or Death Necklace. The Death Necklace is in the 6th chest, and that means it appears the sword could be in the vanilla location in Charlock Castle. The Hangry Canuck is probably going to try to walk back. I think he still maybe has enough magic points to where he could... Oh no, he doesn't have any magic points. He might be able to walk there from here. Or he might take a death and have to redive. This just got really interesting.
The one concern I have right now about the stats is kind of the combination between a low magic ceiling and a low agility seed. I know a lot of the times I like to say the agility, it doesn't matter if you have it, but if you don't have it, it becomes really critical.
Yeah, I agree with you. It looks like right now, just looking at brisulph's stats at level 14, I could imagine level 18 might be where I would guess that things are going to turn around, but it's a randomizer, so who knows. But yeah, this could still be a long grind ahead, and so exactly how the players choose to play it could still have a strong effect on the outcome.
And as Chad is noting, the next level for brisulph will actually come at 7,500 experience. So brisulph will show us the stats of this next level here at the end of the blue dragon fight. Oh no, he's running away.
So this is another curious thing that is kind of similar to what happened with the Hangry Canuck's first dive. And yeah, again, I'm not sure that I agree with the choice. He does have more experience than the Hangry Canuck did when he was first trying to run. Or sorry, more experience, more agility. And so he's more of a favorite to run from the monsters that he's choosing to run from. But yeah, I don't know. I would definitely want the level up. Especially when it's one enemy that you've already invested a little bit into. Like, go ahead and kill it, get the extra agility. It'll help you run from future enemies if you still want to make that choice.
Oh, and only one agility there. 12 magic points is a redeeming part of that level. And it looks like that gave us all the spells at level 15.
Right, in Dragon Warrior Randomizer, you're guaranteed to learn all the spells by level 16, and this time we got them a little bit early. In fact, we got hurt more just at level 2, which was a fantastic way to start off this seed after starting in a swamp and with only 13 hit points. Yeah, this could have been, if Hurtmore had come even 4 or 5 levels later, this could have been a very different start to this seed.
And I think it's an interesting choice here. brisulph running up against the edge of his magic limits, essentially, and opting not to use the fairy flute on the golem. Personally, as a runner, I would use it, just because I'm almost out of magic. I know it has a penalty of about 10 seconds every time you need to play it, but it could make my magic go just a little bit further when I'm trying to get to the sword.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar, playing the fairy flute is guaranteed to put the golem to sleep for at least one turn. And so, given that the golem is such a powerful enemy, it can be a very useful thing to do, but it does cost time because you have to listen to the flute being played each time you use it.
And brisulph is actually making the interesting choice, maybe because his magic is running low, running short, and is not sure that he's going to get through the rest of Sharlock. He's actually going to Judge's Table first.
That's a clever strategy, given that he's out of magic and can't necessarily make it all the way down to the treasury to try to go after this first, and he's going to be suitably rewarded in this seed. There's Erdrick's sword. I wonder, I'm sure he's also thinking about the death necklace, and so expecting he's going to have to stop by the treasury, but he could always pick that up on the final dive, and so now he has to make a decision about whether he thinks the Sharlock grind is the best grind, or if he wants to possibly go back to Swamp Cave and fight the golem, or... I think he'll probably stay in Sharlock, but what do you think?
That was... I'm not sure what his choice is going to be. I think he might just go and see how far he can get, and if he takes a Death Warp, he takes a Death Warp and comes back. But that was just an incredible stroke of luck to keep brisulph kind of on this experience lead path. Not have to re-dive and kind of be concerned about magic as he dives for the sword.
Yeah, it's definitely going to help him right now, because even if he wanted to get out of here, his only way out right now is a Death Warp. And so you might as well cut down as many enemies as you can before they kill you. And with the sword, that was an extra 20 attack power, or maybe even more than that. Was he using the hand axe prior to that? I don't even remember.
It was the hand axe, yes.
Yeah, so that's like 25 attack power boost or something. So he'll have a much easier time cutting down a few more enemies before he takes a death. And maybe even last long enough to get down to the treasury. We'll see. Seems unlikely.
And the golem will end brisulph's attempt to get to the treasury. So brisulph now looking pretty good on both attack power and hit points, assuming using the death necklace. The MP is still a little bit short, and that agility will really make it difficult to take all of your magic down to the dragon.
Yeah, the way the attack power works, with the death necklace on, you would gain 10 attack power, so that would bring brisulph from 120 up to 130. If you subtract 100 and divide by 2, that will leave you with 15. That's a maximum number of hit points damage you'd be able to deal against the Dragon Lord, and your minimum is half of that. So basically, he'd be hitting for 7 to 15, averaging somewhere around 11. And the Dragon Lord has it's a randomizer, but between 150 and 165 hit points. So you'd be looking at having to do, 14 swings in the Dragon Lord in order to be able to beat him. which would probably be 12 heal mores. And with 73 magic, they're not there yet.
And that's, I think, one of the things that the Hangry Canuck might be thinking about being here in Charlock, is just saying, if I see the stats and I'm close by, I can go. But I do think brisulph's call to go and grind on the golem and get the guaranteed encounter every other step off that trap tile is a good one here.
And here's another question then. He could choose to put on the death necklace now? No, he couldn't, because Swamp is underneath the Tantalil Castle, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't re-enter that grind if you die.
Once you're cursed, the king doesn't let you back into Tantalil Castle. Right. And so if this grind, were somewhere else, he might put on the death necklace now to take advantage of the additional attack power, to cut through the golems quicker, to earn experience faster. But since putting on the death necklace curses you and doesn't let you back into Tantalil Castle, he wouldn't be able to continue grinding more golems after he takes a death. And so that's basically a non-starter.
Yeah, I think that's a non-starter. It's an interesting idea, and one that comes up in seeds where we have tons of hit points, but not enough strength, or enough strength, but you could have even more. I expect we'll see it at the end, but maybe not before, just because of where the grind is.
Someone's asking in chat where the nearest town is to Tanagil, and Cantlin is just a few steps away, so that's not an issue. The fact that if you were cursed, you could just, respawn, walk like 5 steps and take it in. That part isn't the issue. But unfortunately, the only other grind spot back in the overworld that's any good is the town of Hawksness with the Red Dragon, which would be a great grind, but it's like a 4-minute walk away.
And I believe the quickest way they've gotten to Hawksness was across the Swamp Cave as well.
Oh, that part I didn't remember. I also, didn't remember the layout of the map. Yeah, so if you couldn't go back through the swamp, then Hawksness is a non-starter as well. But once again, the players had an option of different ways to play it. The Hangry Canuck is choosing to grind inside Charlotte Castle. brisulph is choosing to grind inside Swamp Cave against the Golem. And right now, brisulph has about a 2,500 point experience lead, and it seems like it might still be a couple of levels. So we'll see if this, experience lead widens or narrows, or exactly what happens.
Yeah, I personally, at least as I see it right now, don't expect this experience lead to dissipate unless something happens to brisulph on a dive. This level just got level 16, 5-5, and I missed the very last one.
It was 0552, and the no strength. Strength is the thing they need the most right now, probably. Even with the death necklace, I guess magic points would also compensate. But I'd really, a few more points in strength really reduces how many attacks you're going to need on the Dragon Lord, and therefore really reduces the number of heal mores you need for fighting the Dragon Lord. So a few points of strength could make up for, 16 or 24 more magic points.
So I think we're going to get a little bit of extra grind here. It's the only way to have a real shot against the Dragon Lord. The magic points are now in a place where you could consider going. It's not quite 10 heal mores with 151, but that's just not enough strength to really get by.
Yep, so it looks like we're going to be grinding a bit more. And question in the chat was about races in the tournament. We're a little more than halfway through the first round of Swiss. There are 64, I think, participants in the tournament. So that means 32 matches this week. Lots of races. I think there's another one on this channel coming up at 9 p.m., a little after this race, if I'm remembering correctly. So both here on RPG Limit Break, as well as on the various Randomania networks, you can expect to see a lot of Dragon Warrior Randomizer over the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, we have several races today, actually. So this is our brisulph and the Hangry Canuck race. High Spirits and Cyberdark are tonight. Ikben Maya and Jacquemus Wedge are taking a race tonight. Tilo Tilo and NES Cardinality are racing tonight. Centroid 41 and Fury SK are racing tonight. Furon Burgundy and Basp 33 are racing tonight, and that rounds out the racing. But that's a lot of races, all coming to you on various channels of Randomania right here on RPG Limit Break.
So if you're enjoying what you're watching now, you're in for a whole lot more of it. Hooray!
And for anyone joining us, yes, we have colorized the stats to give kind of a general guideline of whether the stats are good or not, or are ready to go for the end game. So green generally means good to go. Our orange or our yellow color means that things are within the range. If there were other compensating stats that were really strong, we might be able to make up for it. But white just means kind of good for the mid game. So right now, strength is a little lacking, but our agility and magic points are really what we're looking to see grow here in the next couple levels for both brisulph and the Hangry Canuck.
And it seems like brisulph is possibly getting a little bit further ahead in experience. However, let's not lose track of the fact that he will have to take a detour into the treasury in order to pick up the death necklace that the Hangry Canuck is not going to have to take. That's only going to take necessarily a little bit of time, but given that their agility is still low, if he runs into one or two more enemy encounters while he does that little side trip on his final dive to go fight the Dragon Lord, that could easily cost him a heal more or two with some unlucky enemies. And so despite the fact that he's got a few thousand experience point lead, it's definitely in no means a done deal in terms of who's going to be able to finish this one out first.
Yeah, I expect that our stats might take us into a place where the runners might feel like it's time to go, even if it's a little bit iffy on that Dragon Lord fight.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those places where you will start to get antsy as you wonder, how have I done this whole seed? On brisulph's side, it took him a while to find Hawksnest, and he went after the Fairy Flute, which wasn't necessary, and he's choosing not to use fighting all of these golems, so he's got to feel that that was a little bit of a side trip that was a waste of time that might have put him a couple minutes behind. So that might cause him to press if level 17 is kind of right on the borderline of being strong enough. It'll be interesting choices that they'll face, potentially.
And you could always see the gambler's favorite. You could see the hurt more strats against the Dragon Lord. If someone landed one in the first couple swings, it would really shift the odds. That being said, of course, we must admit that hurt more strats rely on a 1 in 16 chance of landing a hurt more against the Dragon Lord.
I think one more golem is going to get level 17 over here on brisulph's side. He needs 12,000 experience for level 17, and each golem is giving him 255. So, before he runs out of magic, he'll find out whether level 17 might finally be the go level. If he sees a big strength boost, for example, that could easily turn the tables.
And this grind, the longer it goes on, the more levels they need, the better that trap tile is going to look, just because you can guarantee that you get the encounter on that next.
Oh my gosh, 01180 strength. While they did gain another heal more with 8 more magic points, it is still not enough. I speculated back at level 13 and 14 that it was looking like level 18 might be the level, and it still looks like that right now. Wow.
It has been some time since I saw a level 18 or 19 seed, and this has the chance. That strength just didn't help us out, but we might see it all at once, and it might just suddenly become a go on level 8.
Alright, but brisulph, rather than continue to grind the golems, I question this decision, has come into Sharlock. It could be the case that he's planning... No, he's trying to run from enemies. He's not taking battles with the Star Wyvern. At 62 agility, I guess, does he just want to make sure the Death Necklace is there? Because did he ever see Tablet Cave?
I'm unsure if this is an information dive. He might be looking to fight the Dragon Lord and just be hoping that it has the low end of the hit points. Because the Dragon Lord can have between 145 and 165 hit points. And
I think he has 0 chance at this. Well, the hit points are so high, I guess they could get double attacks. That's the thing I didn't factor in.
But this will be interesting. I want to see him get down there and kind of what he decides to do on the way there.
I think this is a mistake, honestly. He's spending time now. He's not gaining much experience because he's not taking many fights. I don't think his odds are very good, so depending upon what happens after he gets to the treasury, assuming he makes it down there, I guess we'll find out exactly how it goes.
Yeah, this is a big mental game in terms of the way that you race randomizer. You can't know what anyone else is doing, so just, feeling like maybe it's time to go, even if you're not quite ready, just going to see the information and see if you can make it happen on this.
I'm trying to calculate, okay, with the Death Necklace on, assuming he gets down to the treasury, gets the Death Necklace, he's going to lose 25% of his hit points. At 152, I guess that's losing 38 hit points, I think, which would bring him down to 114. With only 81 defense power, I don't think you're likely to get but maybe 1 extra attack against the Dragon Lord. Does that math sound plausible?
Yeah, you'd have to be really lucky to make it out on 17.
Right.
I feel like what it comes down to.
You would need basically the perfect things. And with 62 agility, like hoping for the perfect things to happen on the entire walk down and not getting a back attack ambush by Dragon Lord 1 or Dragon Lord 2, I think the odds are, I don't know, I would guess only 10 or 15% that he could win at 17, honestly. But even if he just goes down, finds out the Death Necklace is there, maybe goes back to killing some enemies and tries to dive again at 17.5, killing enemies along the way to try to get 18 right as he gets to the Dragon Lord, that would be a reasonable thing to do, I think. That said, who knows? Maybe he's going to go down there and land a hurt more on the first move.
I think also one of the things to remember is that our agility is sitting at 62, so he might be factoring in that he might have to fight on the way down anyways. So he might just be going for that treasury and then assuming that he has to go back and get about 1,000 experience on the second swing through. That's a pretty good expectation of the enemies you should...
Right. That is a completely reasonable strategy if that's actually what's going through his head and that's what he's trying to do. But if that was going through his head, I think he would have fought the Star Wyvern kind of on the top 4 at the start. So that's what's making me doubt it. In any case, the Hangry Canuck just got the bad news that there was no strength at level 16. So, yeah, he's going to have some more bad news coming at level 17, but that's still a little ways down the road for him.
And just a virtual high five there for our runners as the Hangry Canuck gets stopped by an Axe Knight, which he will dispatch with the Erdrick's sword. And then brisulph finds an Axe Knight as he heads into the treasure.
I always find it a little bit entertaining to see that as you go into the battle animation, the Dragon Lord sprite that's on the screen disappears off screen for a second and then comes back on.
And there's been some discussion in the chat about the Swiss rounds. Would you like to cover kind of how those work, Lorgan?
I don't really know exactly how they work, other than everybody gets 5 rounds where you're kind of randomly but not quite randomly paired. So why don't you discuss it, Bobski?
So my understanding of how we set up the Swiss rounds is that the first week, everyone is just random. The next week, we sort out into groups of people who won this week and people who lost this week, and those groups will be matched together. And so essentially matchups will take place according to what happened last week, but it's not a bracket. It's not this matchup will meet that matchup. So there'll be 5 weeks of the Swiss round, and then we'll get into the tournament bracket.
And what qualifies you out of the Swiss rounds to get into the tournament bracket?
That is a great question. I don't remember looking at the math. I'm sure I could quickly look up in the rules, or chat could help me.
My vague recollection is like everyone who's at least 4-1 or better like gets in, and then like some of the 3 and 2s might have a playoff or something. I don't remember exactly how it works out. In any case,
and the Hangry Canuck are both discovering that Stone Man simultaneously.
And which is fun to watch, but it's kind of inexplicable on both sides, in my opinion. I mean, I guess the Hangry Canuck just wants the information to know who's on the spike tiles, so during his next dive, when he goes to try to win. But I'm still really surprised that brisulph is pressing right now. I feel like if he gets a back attack or anything bad in DL1 or some low rolls to start off DL2, he's going to have to switch to hurt more strats and just take a 1 in 16 chance. But maybe he'll get great rolls and be able to pull it off right here. But here starts a battle with the Dragon Lord, phase 1.
Yes, that's interesting. I might have actually just fought that Stone Man a couple more times. He's actually not very far from the next level, about 700 experience away. But here we are in the Dragon Lord fight. The first form of the Dragon Lord, brisulph is hoping to see Stop Spell, but instead goes into the Dragon Lord 2 fight with 60 hit points, but doesn't get back attacked. That's huge.
Yeah, he still has a chance. If he can get a double attack and has average or better than average rolls, he still has a chance with Dragon Lord 2 here. But a chance is all I'm going to.
It's not a great chance. I would not feel good in this fight, and I would definitely be counting personally if it were me. But I missed two of the numbers. And not getting that first double is kind of bad for his chances as well. Coming in at the hit points he didn't get a chance to swing twice, not getting it.
And notice the Dragon Lord just bid him for 49. I think it could even possibly bite him for 50 with only 81 defense power. And so that's something he'll have to take a look out for, but he might choose to take a swing at 49 or 48 or even 47, honestly, to try to get an extra attack. There's a 45, but he chooses to heal more.
He might choose here to start spending hurt mores. It's hard to say, but he might feel like he's behind pace at some point.
I think I just saw an animation that says we switched audio over to brisulph's side. The Dragon Lord fight music is awesome, I think.
The spell had no effect, and so brisulph will go down in his first fight with Dragon Lord. He will get another chance, but he will be cursed and kicked out of the castle. Thou hast failed, and thou art cursed. So go hang out in the... Luckily, we've got Erdrick's armor, so we don't die.
And so, at this point, he no longer has the option to grind out the level in against the golems in the castle. So he's going to have to head back into Sharlock. Like you said, he's only less than 1,000 experience points from the next level up. And so it'll probably only take him, 2 or 3 minutes with some good encounters to get that level up. But then he's going to have to return to Cantlin in all likelihood to get his magic back and go redive at level 18. So all of this is costing him some time, and now it's also cost him maximum hit points. So if he gets an unlucky sequence in the next dive, when he still has only 62 agility, he might be threatened by some enemies just walking down to the Dragon Lord that's going to possibly cost him a heal more on the dive. So it was a big risk that still has implications moving forward.
Yeah, so one of the things that I missed while I was watching that Dragon Lord fight play out is that it looks like the Hangry Canuck actually did equip the Death Necklace, because he was cursed and also kicked out of the castle shortly behind brisulph.
Right,
so
he got to that Stone Man spike tile and decided to start grinding some experience right there to have a repeatable grind on the Stone Man. and chose to equip the Death Necklace to do it. So I guess, yeah, that's evened the score for our runners on that front as well. And so brisulph is still in the lead, but depending upon what level 18 has, if it turns out to continue to be a very close battle, it could come down to the luck of the dice when you're fighting the Dragon Lord.
It's going to come down to encounter rate coming through Charlock here. I think brisulph has the advantage because of that experience, but if the Hangry Canuck can get the levels, because the Hangry Canuck is going to be working off the same math here pretty quickly as brisulph, but brisulph has pretty much the level game. The goal is the Hangry Canuck might be stepping out to get more magic and to actually take a dive. Might also think that that it's time to go.
And it looks like brisulph was conserving his magic. He still has all 83 of his, and so he might be planning just to get level 18 by meleeing some opponents here on the first couple of floors of Charlock, and assuming level 18 doesn't come with a huge magic boost, but does give him some strength, just continue diving and try to fight the Dragon Lord once again.
Yeah, this is an exciting race. This is why I enjoy when tournament time rolls around, because our runners take interesting, aggressive strategies. And when it's almost time to go, runners might decide to go just to see if they can win.
But yeah, I'm thrilled that this one is turning out as good as it is.
And did you see brisulph topping up on herbs? I had shifted over to talk about the Hangry Canuck, and I actually had completely forgotten if he
did not pay attention. I only remember him using a couple of them during the previous dive, so even if he didn't, I feel like he still has like 3 or 4 in his inventory. And right now, he's getting a fantastic lack of encounters, which allows him to walk back up his hit points, and now he's finally putting the Fairy Flute to play. This is a great play. He's encountered the Golem. He needs some experience. He can put the Golem to sleep at the sacrifice of 8 seconds or whatever it is to play the Fairy Flute. Oh, but then he runs away. I thought he was going to kill the Golem.
And the seed that the Hangry Canuck is playing, as noted by Jacquemus Wedge, actually looks to be a MP HP seed?
Oh, THC, the name, you mean?
Yeah.
Your name, the choice of name affects the player's stats.
Right.
That's apparently not reflected in the tracker, if that's actually the case. I haven't looked up HP MP. Wow, so a non-standard build.
But that would
so I don't know if it's possible
for
the tracker to like update things.
More, actually. So he might have a few less attack points and roll a little bit lower, but does have 1 more heal more if he can take all 11 down to the bottom.
Right. It'll also reduce his agility and,
Yeah, agility and strength are slightly penalized.
Okay. Yeah, wow. And I didn't see level 18. brisulph just got it, but I was looking at the other screen and missed the stats.
According to Smashy, it was 2, 15, 3, and 16. Thank you, Smashy, for keeping up with the levels.
So the 15 hit points will allow him to get doubles during the Dragon Lord battle, and that should do it. Would be my expectation. Also, the extra agility gives him the defense power, so the Dragon Lord's bites are going to be doing a little bit less. He's definitely not guaranteed, but much better shape in this Dragon Lord battle, assuming that he makes it down here with his 10 Healmores.
Yeah, the attack power didn't come a long way, so still needs that little bit, but having more magic to work with on the next dive if he has to.
And, I mean, yeah, even just that little bit of attack power, like he's averaging 12 now, whereas he was averaging more like 11 before, and during, 12 attacks, if each one hits for another point or whatever, that's 12 more damage you're likely to deal just on average. We're going to see if his herbs are actually in good shape or not. He's using a heal here. He does still have all 6 of his herbs, so he did fill back up on herbs. So that's good. He'll need them. He's probably going to use the herbs during the Dragon Lord 1 battle, would be my guess in this time.
Yes. So he is indeed a fool and begins the Dragon Lord fight anew. Unfortunately, gets the hurt more on round 1. So there's a chance to get hurt more. There's a chance to get physical attacked, and you want to see Stop Spell because the Erdrick's armor stops Stop Spell for us.
Yeah, and so Stop Spell or Physical Attack won't do much damage. He wants his hit points ideally to be above 100 going into the second phase, the Dragon Lord, so that he can get 2 attacks off before having to do his first heal more, because that 1 extra attack, even if it's just for 10 or 11, might be what's going to make the difference in this final fight. 98 hit points, he's probably okay to get 2 attacks.
So Shin Kaido asks whether the Death Necklace takes that 25% deduction on after levels. I believe the gain, it shows the full amount, and then the calculated maximum is still penalized. So, yes, it is still there. You might not see it in the level itself.
Right. In any given moment, it's as though you just put on the Death Necklace a moment ago. And brisulph gets a double attack during the Dragon Lord fight. So with the opening double, 2 attacks before heal more, and a double during the middle of the fight, he's become a heavy favorite to win this time around.
Yeah, so it looks like level 18 was really, really helpful in that dive. I think he might have gotten it on 17, getting an extra double in there, but 18 really kind of seals the deal.
And meanwhile, the Hangry Canuck, he should be able to kill enough enemies during the dive down. I imagine that he's going to get level 18 as well. He needs to do a little bit of picking and choosing his spots to make sure that he can preserve all of his magic points and just use some herbs to heal when he needs to. But even if he gets down at level 17 with all of this magic, he might be able to pull it off, even if he doesn't choose to go for level 18. It's kind of a tough call. Again, with 62 agility, it's hard to run from a few of these enemies, but it seems like he's running right now.
Alright, so down to the last attack, and brisulph does take out the Dragon Lord. We regain the Ball of Light and return to Tanagal to talk to the...
And now that you defeated the Dragon Lord, the fact that you're cursed, the king is like, you can come inside. Get your GGs out in chat for brisulph, who's going to be first to finish this race with a... looks like going to be a time right around 1 hour 41.
And has technically stopped right before you can stop your timer. There it is.
Press that button one more time. There we go. And thus the tale comes to an end. Congratulations to brisulph. And I think I saw a brief pause over on Hangry's screen. I imagine it looks like he's going to continue after being distracted for a moment. So yeah, we'll see if he can win. Level 17 with 11 heal mores. Probably has a decent shot. I can't work out the math that quickly right now, but I guess we're probably also going to see if we can pull brisulph into the room and talk to him. Welcome and congratulations.
It might be just a second setting up push to talk. I know that's a common thing for a lot of our runners.
Well, They
No,
are.
it turns out I was still muted from when I was doing tracking. I had push to talk on.
All right. Well, welcome. Yeah, tell us what you thought of that race.
I thought that the first 25% of it I was behind. I probably was, because I couldn't get past wizards or red dragons.
Yeah, you had a little bit less luck at the beginning in terms of getting the non-hurtmoreable enemies relative to the Hangry Canuck. That's true.
And then I'd say the next 50% I played very well, grinded well, did good on the exploration and getting grind done. And then deciding to be, malleable into Sherlock, deciding that if my magic was under 20 magic points, I was going to go check the vanilla location, exit, and come back in. And happened to get the sword doing that.
Yeah, we were wondering about that. We saw the low resources, and since the vanilla location is a little bit of a shorter walk, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, especially in the seed where you're going to need both the sword and the death necklace. If either one had been there, it's probably something that you wanted to pick up anyway.
And then I decided on the death necklace after 2 levels of no strength gains, figuring I'd have enough to get it done. And then I had bad Dragon Lord 1 luck, and then I had fairly bad Dragon Lord 2 luck, where I rolled my average, I think, once, and I rolled everything lower.
And I think, did you also have a back attack in there? I can't remember.
I guess DL1 had one, yes.
Right, and then as a result, you came out of DL1 with only like 60-something hit points, so couldn't get the opening double.
And I figured, why not try the YOLO Hurtmores and just hopefully get lucky?
Yeah, we expected they were going to come out. It would have been really interesting to see. Your opponent, the Hangry Canuck, is fighting the Dragon Lord right now. He is on 17, but he dove after he'd gotten all of his magic on 17, and so he's going into that fight with 11 heal mores and has a shot at that level.
And is also playing MP HP seed, or name. So that's also why 11 and not 10 heal.
Ah, right. I think it was 89 versus 83 magic in his build.
Correct.
So is he playing Death? He must be playing Death Necklace.
Definitely.
Well, good luck to him, because my luck was pretty bad. And I have to say, I was so happy to discover that red dragons would take stop spells. I think I missed 2 on 1 red dragon. Otherwise, they just kept taking stop spells and were a nice grind whenever they showed.
Yeah, our tracker actually put up the stats on red dragon at some point. I think they had 6 out of 16 stop spell resist, which wasn't too bad.
Wow, I really beat the odds on them.
Yeah, we've got those stats back up. He was 75% heal more, but also 75% fire breath, so that at least made them not quite as formidable as they could have otherwise been.
Yeah, I couldn't complain about the grinds, because if you did Hawksness, you had Breckenry right across the way, and if you decided to go Golems, you could just die and get back to them pretty quick.
Right. If Hawksness had been closer, I could definitely imagine putting on the Death Necklace early and trying to grind Hawksness, but given that it was a bit of a walk to get there, and I don't remember if you had to go through the Swamp Cave, in which case you wouldn't have been able to walk there.
It was one entire continent, because I actually, in the way of looking for Hawksness, walked to Swamp North.
And unfortunately for the Hangry Canuck, he had luck like you did, and has failed on the Dragon Lord. It came up a little bit short. I wasn't keeping count to see how close it was, but he is probably going to join us in the chat now as well.
Yeah, those rolls were bad.
Hangry, did you count? Because on my level 17 attempt at the Death Necklace, I got a whopping 88 damage on the Dragon Lord, too, before I had to go to Hurtmore strat.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
I didn't count, but I don't think I was close, hitting 6s all the time.
Yeah, at an attack power of 125, the rolls were 6 to 12. So, unfortunately, without the strength HP seed, that just came up with not great math for.
I would also say Strength Agility would have had the advantage on this seed for sure.
Yeah, at level 18, you finally had some agility that brought your defense power up to where the bites were doing a couple less hit points. in the Dragon Lord fight, and you did end up getting, in addition to the opening double on your final one, another double in the middle of the battle. And yeah, with the hit points at 114, 116, where you guys were at, it can be really close, kind of luck of the draw, but a little bit of extra defense could put you over the edge to get that one extra swing.
Did you find a grind spot at all?
I actually grinded in 2 spots. I grinded in Hawksness using Stop Spell on Red Dragons, and then I just used the Golem in the Swamp Cave to get 15, 16, and 7.
Yeah, I was going in Sherlock.
It looked like brisulph was gaining experience a little bit faster than you were in Sherlock, but it wasn't a huge difference. He went in with a bit of an experience lead that he gained from grinding the Red Dragons a bit earlier in the seed when he first got to Hawksness, and kind of kept that experience lead throughout towards the end of the seed of just like 1,000 or 2,000.
Yeah, for being the first seed I've played since last year's tournament, I'm kind of impressed that I actually got this far.
Congratulations, this is pretty good for de-resting.
And it really was a close race throughout the whole thing. brisulph pulled it out in the end and kind of expanded, but at one point, I think it was pretty much within 1,000 up until after the hour mark, I want to say. It might have been an hour and 15 in before brisulph started to expand the experience gap just a little bit.
If my webcam would have been on, you guys would have got a laugh when I realized that the sword was probably in the vanilla location. Because I was like, I don't remember how to get there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you haven't played in forever. Well, congratulations for finding it. That could be a big deal.
Actually, Hangry, that was a big advantage that I had on my first dive into Sherlock. I was making my decision on where to go to look for the sword based on my resources, and I ran out of magic on the floor you take to take that side path, so I managed to get to the sword on my first dive, luckily.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I went right in, got the treasury, and then I was like about to bang my head off the wall, and I'm like, well, let's go back and see what we can do. And then I remembered, it's funny because I remembered Edgeworth playing the other night and him going through that, so I kind of pieced it together from that. I got lucky though.
Well, I have a question. Did either of us see the tablet cave? I know
Nope.
I didn't.
I didn't.
I was terrified the sword was going to be in there because I never saw it in my explorations.
I was the same way. I'm like, if this sword ain't in the vanilla location, I'm like, I'm finished, because I don't... It was probably with this after the swamp cave, though, because I didn't do much exploration on that second continent. I found coal, got the armor, and that was basically it.
Yeah, actually, it was one whole continent. I actually walked to Swamp North from the castle.
Thank God the search spot was not needed. I was dreading those coordinates.
Funny thing is, they were real easy. They were right by the Swamp Cave, because I did them hoping it was the token, because I hadn't seen Hawksness yet.
Yeah, that was one of the main points of divergence, where you guys kind of went along different paths in the first part of the seed, other than Hangry getting the armor a bit sooner than brisulph did by finding coal a little bit earlier. You guys were kind of neck and neck and following the same paths. You both walked into Garenham at the same moment in time and a few other things. But then one of you went after the token and the other one managed to find Hawksness, and that's where things really diverged for a while before they came back together at Sherlock. It was fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I'm fighting that red dragon and Hawksness. I'm like, oh, he's only breathing, it's fine. Hitting him. He's breathing, it's fine. Hitting him. Heal more, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, the stop spell was landing for me. Apparently it was 6 out of 16 to hit, so that was a bit of luck on my side. I missed 2 of them on one red dragon. Otherwise, every red dragon took a stop spell and would then be pretty easy.
Yeah, it worked on my first try too, and I only fought that red dragon once to get the armor and left. I didn't grind there. Probably should have had I thought about it, but... Did you come across a flame sword?
You know, I never saw one, but if the Sherlock had been a strikeout on the flame sword, I was going to grind for money to get one, but I never really looked for it. I usually only buy it a broadsword.
Well, I grinded. I gold grinded to get the silver shield and kept enough for the flame sword, and I'm pretty sure I've seen every town, and I did not see a flame sword. Is it possible for them not to be in the sea?
Definitely.
Then it was not there, my friend.
Could you imagine the sword though being in Tablet Cave? That would have been
4 hours seed
quite
coming
the
up.
thing. Oh boy.
We'd still be wandering somewhere throughout Alifgard.
Well, brisulph would be wandering somewhere through Alfgard. I would have hit the dot forfeit probably an hour ago. But
But I'm glad
GG,
it turned out
brisulph,
how
that
it
was
did.
good, man. Good race. Just glad we didn't embarrass ourselves too much, I guess.
Well, 2 old Canadian boys. What are you gonna do?
And with that, do you guys have any parting thoughts for our audience?
I just have to say that everyone who's been doing restreaming, tracking, commentary, running the tournament, everyone's just doing a phenomenal job with all these races being, as many as possible, being restreamed, and people being able to see as many of these exciting races. Just well.
Yeah, I'm pretty much along the same paths as Bri. Thanks to everybody who put this on. Spark over for her restream. I think it was Lorgon, and I can't think of the other guy who did the commentary.
Bob.
Bobby, who tracked? I didn't really get to see the tracker.
I'm assuming Seawolf.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had the
Seawolf
Seawolf
took-
tracking and Spark over restreaming today.
Very nice. Well, thank you to both of them, and I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I can't wait for week 2. Should be fun.
Indeed. All right, I guess
Thank
we
you.
can wrap it up there.
Indeed. Thank you, GG.
Yeah, GG to you too, bruh.
And I think that does it for us here with this race in the Dragon Warrior Randomizer 2019 Tournament Swiss round between brisulph and the Hangry Canuck. This restream was brought to you by Sparkover. Tracking was done by the Seawolf. Commentary by myself and Lorgan. We will be back here on RPG Limit Break with a race between Tilo Tilo and Nest Cardinality at 9 p.m. There's also a race going on between High Spirits and Cyberdark at 7 p.m. on Randomania 2. So any parting words for our audience, Lorgan?
I just hope that they enjoy watching these races because there's going to be lots of them and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and we hope you catch more Dragon Warrior Randomizer throughout this tournament. There's lots of great racing to come.